Nole insiders Lane Hurt and Tim Linafelt hear you high atop Doak Campbell Stadium. Head coach Jimbo Fisher just had his Monday press conference. And of course, the big topic, Derwin James's injury. Coach Fisher said it was a meniscus injury, should be out anywhere between 2 weeks, 10 weeks, depending on how the surgery goes. The good news, not an ACL injury. The bad news is he will miss some time.
Yes, it took a little while to clarify for sure, but there is no scenario under which Derwin James would play on Saturday against Louisville, which obviously is tough news for Florida State going up against Louisville. And, of course, Lamar Jackson, their quarterback, is just a dynamic guy, can run, can pass, averages about 500 yards of offense a game by himself lately, it seems. So it's a tall order for Florida State. Was always going to be a tall order. Now it just gets that much tougher with Derwin James out. But, as you mentioned, anytime there's a knee injury, your fear is the dreaded ACL tear, which costs players the rest of the season typically. So Florida State avoided that, and now it's just sort of a wait and see. Jimbo said that he was in surgery today, and the length of his recovery will depend on what they find, exactly what they find when they go in and get inside that knee. But the fact that it's not an ACL tear, and it sounds like there's a pretty good chance that he would return this season, that has to be considered good news in the long term.
The other part of this is the secondary will have to make some changes. Some things will have to move around. Nate Andrews expected to be back at practice this week, which means hopefully he could play. But really, some young guys, like Calvin Bruton, A.J. Westbrook, other young guys are going to have to step into that role.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see exactly how Florida State shuffles its secondary. They're kind of like the offensive line in that they cross-train so much that the next guy on the depth chart isn't necessarily the next guy up in case of an injury. But like you mentioned, Nate Andrews, hopefully would get him back. He's a senior, probably knows the defense maybe better than anybody on the defense, so to get him back for his first game this season would be pretty nice. And then also A.J. Westbrook and Calvin Bruton, two of the second-year guys who have played pretty extensively over the first couple weeks of the season, and have looked pretty good. And so it's a feet to the fire situation for those guys. I expect them both to play a pretty good amount, especially A.J. Westbrook. I think he, looking in fall practice at the secondary, A.J. seemed to be the next man up in those safety spots and the second team defense during scrimmages and practices. So I would expect him to kind of have his coming out party on Saturday. I think you'll probably see a lot of A.J. Westbrook.
As Tim alluded to, probably not the week you want to have a guy like Derwin James missing out with Louisville. Lamar Jackson has been nothing short of spectacular. 13 touchdowns in 2 games for the Cardinals. He's made some huge plays. Florida State has given up some big plays. Certainly the matchup that everyone's going to want to see against Louisville.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lamar Jackson had a really nice day last year as a freshman before Florida State was able to shut him down a little bit in the second half. Look, he's a talented player, and Louisville is a talented team. I think it's going to be a really fun game. But they also played Charlotte in Week 1 and Syracuse in Week 2, and I don't mean to disparage either of those teams, but whether or not Derwin James is in the secondary for Florida State, it's still going to be a dramatic increase of competition for Louisville this week. And I think that's one area where Florida State might have a little bit of an advantage is say what however you think of Ole Miss's long-term prospects this season, they are a quality team from the Southeastern Conference with, future NFL players on their defense. So Florida State has played against that type of competition and sort of is familiar with that, where some of these guys on Louisville, it's been a while since they've played a high-quality opponent, at least since last year's bowl game and not yet this year. So you wonder if that'll play a role and if it'll take Louisville maybe a little while to get adjusted to having a team that sort of has the same, if not better, quality of athlete and player that they do.
There you have it, Seminole fans. Second-ranked Florida State against 10th-ranked Louisville this week. We'll have a lot more coming at you this week. We talk to players tonight and on Tuesday. Try to have some fun feature stuff for you. And, of course, our game preview on Friday, 3 Keys on Saturday. Everything you need from Tim Linafelt and myself on Seminoles.com. So I'll wrap up things for now. Go Noles.